just trying to get myself to head outside to get some groceries, and I think I'm just feeling quite overwhelmed. Lots of things going on in my mind, so I wanted to record as well, and I was thinking I didn't want to delay heading outside. If I record, I'll lose my momentum to kind of collect groceries, but the thought of getting groceries and what to buy was just overwhelming. It was hard to process the thoughts of, okay, what do I feel like I want to eat over the next coming days, and almost like a measuring tool. It's the activity of getting groceries and sort of trying to plan some meals in my head. Today it felt as hard as harder than it's ever been to do that, and I'm not sure what that means for the bigger picture of my health, but just some awareness there that I think gradually it's becoming more difficult to think clearly in what to buy and things, and it feels like it's been getting more difficult. And today was just like, now, moments before recording this, I was looking at I've got a big list on my phone of all the groceries I've ever kind of bought. I've got it in a list, and I can kind of select, okay, what do I want to get this trip. I've kind of used that to help my memory, so I don't have to kind of think. I can look at the list of different types of foods and things and think, oh yeah, I need some of that, and just to kind of run through a small thought process. There was the idea of, for instance, a craving to have some pizza, and I think that's been there for the last few days, and there's been, if I get off topic for a second, there's been the can't think of the word of, I guess I've wanted to binge on food, which is what I've done a lot in the past, especially on pizza, but maybe I'll leave that topic aside to want to kind of cover what's going on now. So, and even the choice of sounds really silly to say it loud, but it's just, I guess, the state of my health and where I am. But in the supermarket I'm going to, they have kind of these sort of freshly baked sort of pizza slices, small ones, and then they have obviously the base you can get, as well as a packet of ingredients, cheese and all that stuff. And I couldn't, sitting here, is too, I don't know what word I can use to describe it, but I just couldn't compute the decision making or where to start. Okay, should I get this or should I get that? And it's just like paralysis almost. I couldn't. Do you know how one thought can sort of string another thought, and you get some momentum? You think, oh, okay, like that's more expensive, so is that enough for me to get the other option? But that's probably more tastier. Should I? There's some sort of traction or thought you can get your teeth into to kind of decide, but it was almost like I couldn't get that beginning process started. And even sitting here now, it just feels like I don't know what to do. It sounds it's more and more difficult to describe stuff as well, and sometimes the effort to try and describe what I'm going through, even I'm using this as a tool to help as well, to just talk and just to try and clear the mind in some ways of things, but sometimes it's a strain to try and explain. Bit of poetry there. And I've got a bit of a sense of humour about things. So yeah, I think maybe a useful tool is just to simplify things as much as possible. Like right now, okay, I need certain groceries, so I need to get myself down there. And yeah, it's sometimes even hard to know sort of what healthy approaches or healthy thoughts to have sometimes. Like I've got the thought of trying to keep things simple, just to not, that seems like a useful thing to do. And then sometimes my mind gets so bad, it's like, okay, is that a good strategy to do? Keep things simple. You kind of almost intuitively make things more complex. Okay, what model of thought should I go with? Should I go with let's keep things simple, or should I go there and just intuitively, and I guess I don't want to put myself in a position when I'm in a supermarket where it's a stressful atmosphere, anxious one, where lots of stimuli, lots of people and noise around me. I don't want to just be there and having to try and make a decision, which has happened before, where I just end up getting everything. I think I've been, maybe even with pizza, I've been there before where I've got the bakery stuff, and then I thought, oh, it's the fresh pizza, let's just get those as well, and I end up just getting a whole bunch of stuff that it's probably not healthy for me to get. But sometimes it's the easiest kind of route because you don't know what to get to decide, so you just get everything, which takes away, in a sense, you kind of let the floodgates open, and I don't know if it's liberating, but it just feels unsafe to do as well. And yeah, I'm already feeling quite vulnerable and fragile, I guess. I had a difficult day yesterday, and this a difficult moment this morning. Strange. It's difficult to record when I know I've got to kind of looking to go out, and it makes it feel like I'm sort of rushing, or I prefer recording like a log when there's no like immediate thing I need to do afterwards, so it's a bit more relaxed, but it also feels like I'm struggling right now, so I kind of, it's not real, there's no winning situation really. I didn't want to just, before I've used willpower to kind of think, okay, let's just go outside and take things step by step, but I feel a little bit even more unwell today, where I feel like it will be more sort of harmful just to try and power through when I'm feeling the way I am. So I thought, okay, let's record, and although this is halting sort of momentum to get outside, it feels like I don't have much choice. Yeah, so there's the whole grocery thing there, and then it was yesterday and this morning, a couple of things maybe to cover, probably adding up to where I'm feeling now. Yesterday I saw some family, which was okay to do. I feel like just with the activity of getting groceries, everything seems to be getting more difficult, and it's sometimes, I've talked about before, it's hard to get a bird's eye view or a big perspective on how my health is, but sometimes the activities, the benchmark, when that changes, the severity of it, then that gives you an idea, gives me an idea that, okay, I'm finding this a lot harder than I've ever found it before, or I sense it's more difficult than it's been. so that gives maybe a sense of perspective or measurement of my health. But it got to a point yesterday where I was completely drained, and it was very difficult for me to overhear conversation happening. I was sort of just there in the presence, and there's a point where I had to kind of leave. It was because it was just causing me sort of pain and difficulty to kind of where I've reached my sort of limit for how much I can absorb conversation wise, and I don't think it was just I don't know what labels to use for it, but it's very and I just wanted to exit that situation, and it took a while for me to. It was strenuous to build up to the moment to say I'm just going to get some fresh air. Felt like I had to kind of explain things a little bit, so I kind of, and it was hard to do in the moment to say, it's difficult for me to listen to anymore, and I don't want to come across in a rude way. It's not a particular person in that sense, it's just the stimulus of having conversation and me listening, and it's just that's too much for me. I reached my sort of limit, and that limit's getting smaller and smaller now, and I'm trying to be aware of the aspect of trying to do things that are healthy and like be in social situations, and be aware that doesn't atrophy too much, but also listening to what I'm able to absorb. It's not the word I'm looking for, but it has to do what I'm able to absorb, and not add more stress to my mind. So there's that almost balance of trying, but it feels in some ways that even if things do atrophy, there's not really a choice about it, because I don't have the strength to sort of try and maintain a certain level of stamina for conversation or other things. And it sometimes doesn't feel like that's understood, that things may naturally atrophy, and it's not a case of I'm not doing enough of this or that, or I need to keep that up, because sometimes I just can't keep it up. And I feel like I'm fully aware that things just may get worse, and it's not a direct result always of, I'm not putting enough effort in or this, and sometimes it can, sometimes I need more people to be open to that as well, because it feels like there's almost a one-way sort of input from people. Sometimes it's just a matter of time before you get better, and I may well begin to get better, things may improve, but being in that constraint, there's a pressure to that as well, because things are getting worse from what I can sense. And when people are kind of given that narrative constantly, maybe, I don't know if it's just trying to be positive, but for me it's a real not a realism, but a realistic sort of, not even realistic, but just a balanced view of what things are going on with me right now. I tend to always get off topic, or I've got so many things to say at once. It's sometimes hard to navigate, where it's almost like I want to walk in every direction at the same time. I've got so many points of things I want to talk about. I lose what I wanted to kind of get back to. So we're talking about groceries yesterday, this morning. So yesterday is what we're talking about, yesterday. So it took a while to build up to that situation to try and exit, and it was just painful because I didn't have the words to communicate like a neat sentence to say, I just, I managed to say enough to say I need to go for a walk. That, it's too much for me to listen to. It's kind of what I said, which I guess gave enough clues. So I kind of managed to just go out for a walk. Maybe it's a good thing as well, because when that happens again, maybe I'm hoping it'll be easier for me to speak up, to say, hey, I need to, be alone for a bit, or go take a break from the conversation going on. And I think the more things like this happen around people around me in my life at the moment, then maybe there's some understanding from that action where, this person, he needed time before, when, he reached a certain level of, I'm wording this really badly, but with that, someone else may be thinking, oh, this person's reached their stamina of conversation. I understand, he had to leave for a few minutes before, and it becomes a bit of a norm instead of a big deal. But so that was a bit stressful yesterday, and then I kind of, when I was getting a lift home, there was a phone call that took place, a person taking me home, and it was a bit of like an angry sort of phone call, and I had to just absorb that. Was challenging to do. And it affected me more than I thought at the time. A family member I was with, who very kindly sort of said, did that make you feel anxious, overhearing that? And they said, sorry to, you had to hear that, and it was hard to communicate that. Perhaps it didn't feel me feel anxious, but it was a lot to absorb. That absorption would come out in the days ahead, perhaps. But that kind of added to things. Perhaps in some ways I was anxious or stressed in when you hear in terms of my sensory difficulties. You hear like an angry person, you may have some anger, and you're overhearing that. It may have more of an effect on me than someone who may not suffer with that. So I got home fairly sort of late in the evening, so it was a kind of a long day in company, especially following the 3 or 4 days where I've been alone. So then this morning was a difficult phone call I had to make. It's to do with my foot and seeing a podiatrist, and I recently updated my address, and so I had to try and figure out if there was a closer place I could go to, because they had given me an appointment at a clinic that was sort of, I'm assuming it was in the radius of my previous address. So I was trying to explain that, trying to find out if the location of my podiatrist appointment was a result of where my address was located, and it was just really hard to explain that. Eventually we kind of got there, but it was just arduous, and the stress of getting there. So after the phone call, it was just a lot of stress to absorb again with that, and sometimes brings up the question if I need extra help to someone to make the phone calls for me, and those kind of things. And that's its own big topic, really, of extra support, what I need, because there's lots of things there's a few things that I feel that maybe some support might be needed. I'm not sure quite yet. That's another decision to try and calculate. But again, keep things simple. Perhaps if there was someone who could make that phone call for me, that would have been helpful. But in order to get help, you almost need to communicate that this help is needed. Say if I did have someone who was supporting me, I find communication difficult. I wonder if that would be stressful itself, to have to communicate to someone to say, I need help with this, can you do that for me? I'm not sure how that would work. Maybe it's something I can try and speak to my GP about, perhaps. And then also, whoever provides, if there is a service that exists and I qualify for something like that, or it fits into my needs, perhaps that's something that can be communicated with that service, to say, I struggle to speak on the phone, can I email or write you a text, and then maybe test it out to see if it's too stressful to even do that. And maybe a lot of that stuff maybe needs to be tried and tested, perhaps. And but just going into that, and it's like any additional stress, it takes a lot, and to ask for help and to see if the support area is available, and then try and testing that out. It feels like I don't have any reserves left in case that is stressful. So and even maybe to ask to communicate to the GP that I may need help, but I don't know how I need help, and it just feels all like a black cloud at the moment. It's of difficulty and stress and pain. So to even communicate that I need help, and how to do that communication is stressful and painful. So it feels like I'm in this kind of bubble wrap where it's getting wrapped tighter and tighter, and it's harder to communicate that. It always feels like I don't know how to ask for help, really, because you need to know what you want, what help you need. And so maybe some of this can be try and explain to the GP, perhaps. Maybe you could tell them, hey, just watch this video from this time frame to this time frame. So this morning I was already sort of trying to recover from yesterday, and then that is just a stressful phone call to trying to. It almost felt like sandpaper, the phone call, of me trying to communicate and them trying to interpret and understand. And of course, the person on the other end may not be just super nice. The person wasn't, rude or anything, but I could tell there was a bit of a roughness and a rushing of their energy, and what I need at that moment, because I'm at a really difficult end of the scale. I really need someone who's, sort of very patient and very sort of, I wish the other person could understand my health, because then they could try and meet me where I am, versus obviously having just a baseline of how to deal with everybody. And sometimes that can be quite, I can't think of the word, but concise comes to mind. That's not what I mean, but sort of is. But and they're quite I wouldn't say abrupt, but there was dealing with that sort of energy was just difficult. I need someone more pliable to kind of help me communicate what I was trying to communicate to them, but it wasn't that at all. It was someone who was kind of, in a sense, like the previous GP phone calls where it's been difficult. I've needed someone to kind of reach out and say, hey, what is it I can, to help me get out what I wanted to. But obviously, of course, the person on the other end have no idea what I'm going through. So that was a difficult phone call, and straight after it, I could feel the stress and stuff in my body, and I just literally stood and just tried to take some breaths and gather myself, but it was a temptation to just give up for the day. Almost just think, oh God, I just want to do something to help with the stress, whether it's just sit and watch a movie, or which I wouldn't have done anyway, because it would feel weird to start my day like that, because then it would just, if I did do something like that, then I probably would find it really hard to take a shower and get myself going, and that whole process is already difficult because of the extra little things I've got to do with my skin care. So I was just standing in a room, and it was the minutes were ticking by into the morning was going past 9 o'clock in the morning, and felt like I was already losing momentum. So taking a shower just was a lot of effort today. It's effort every day, but so yeah, here I am. I'm still hoping I can get myself to go out to get the groceries. It's past noon. Not sure when this will upload. I may try and upload this while I walk, but for some reason it's just not, the upload is just really slow. I'm not sure something's changed with my signal or anything with my phone, but it's just painfully slow. So sometimes it can take all day to upload it. So maybe I'll another idea is potentially to head out now after this, to head to the park and just upload it there where there's good reception, to see if I can upload it fast, and hopefully there's still enough momentum for me to get groceries. I'm trying to create conditions that make it easier to get groceries, and stopping momentum like recording this or potentially stopping at the park, it kind of there's more chance of me thinking, oh, maybe I'll get them tomorrow now. So it's hard to assess if going to the park would do that. But I do want to upload this in a good time as well. It can be a bit stressful to kind of have my phone sort of trying to upload it all day. If I come back and I'm indoors. So yeah, just feels like I can use words I kind of well or overwhelmed, but I think the frustrating thing, I can't give those words context or nuance and details, because that word can mean so many things. It can be interpreted in so many different ways. But yeah, so it's almost that kind of metaphor of using a sledgehammer to hammer a nail in. It's not the right tool, and it feels like with the words that give detail and context and a bit more understanding, it feels less capabilities I have for that. So for me to say I'm overwhelmed or unwell is this huge kind of blanket statement, and it's frustrating to me because I want to understand it better myself, because it feels like if I'm not able to explain it to myself, and it's a bit of insanity there, where there's some feelings where okay, there's feelings like detailed feelings or sensations and thoughts that I can't quite grab hold of. It kind of move too quickly out of my grasp before I can open them up and unpackage them myself. So sometimes it makes me feel unwell with that aspect of it, really. It's like this huge kind of thick blanket just going over stuff, and when the mind itself can't make sense of it, it can sort of almost get a periphery view of what's happening, a little bit, a blurry periphery view of what's happening, and you're trying to add, you're trying to make it clearer so you can add detail through it. And I'm using obviously words and language to try and self-analyze my mind, and it's that whole process it almost feels like insanity when you're not getting what you need from that. And I can't remember what it's like to have clear functionality, cognitive functionality, but I'm assuming it's like a seamless clarity where you can almost look at like a piece of paper or a paint, like a canvas, like your own mind, and think, oh yeah, that's what's going on right now. I'm feeling this way and I'm feeling this, and there's clear thoughts about that. But when that lens is not working, it's like I've said many times, and I'm sure I'll continue to say, because it's all I've got to kind of offload and talk about. That's becoming blurry, and hence recording this. maybe there's a sense we can see the struggle of trying to extract I don't even know the word to use now. Extract the data, I guess. Okay, so how can I... Feels like I need some sort of therapeutic voice to kind of sum things up for me, or to give me that stability. I don't know where to get that from. It feels like I used to have that sort of healthy voice or narrative, and even a compassionate one as well, where to say, hey, you're doing well to do this, and that used to be really helpful. But it feels like I don't have access to that voice anymore, which is a bit scary. So even that's kind of eroded away. So it feels like I've got less things to grasp, almost less stability to grasp, if that makes sense. Like when I talk about the model of thought of how to, this is me really hard to do because I'm struggling to talk and think clearly, but I'm going to try and stay on this if I can, but to try and keep hold of this logic I'm thinking of. But the thought model to kind of assess how I'm feeling now, that isn't even available to me, like a healthy perspective. So it makes it hard to even get myself into gear when you can't sum things up and it's just all fragmented. And I feel like I need like a healthy voice, a therapeutic sort of voice to say, okay, so yeah, I've talked a bit about yesterday and this morning. So back to groceries. Yeah. So back to the all-important topic of pizza. And of course, it's not pizza; it's the mechanics behind that. So, but the surface of it turns into, okay, what type of food should I get today at the groceries? It's funny because even though it sounds obscure, it's not the word I'm looking for. It feels like more and more words are just, maybe it's just this morning where I feel maybe quite stressed out, and there's a harsher word than obscure. Ludicrous is not the word either. It's kind of in between ludicrous and obscure. There's a word there I'm trying to find, but to think I'm trying to decide what pizza to get, it feels like it's, yeah, maybe bizarre is a bit of a better word, but again, it's not the pizza, it's the decision of I want to do something. Okay, there's a choice of what to do, and trying the mechanics of trying to decide that, it just leaves me in paralysis. And the more I think about it, the more I get entwined and more I get lost. So there are certain things I do need to get groceries, like toiletries, which are essential things, which are easy to, I know I need those. Okay, let's grab that. I'm looking to make some lentils at some point, but maybe today's not a good day to do that because I need to soak them. So maybe I can soak them tonight to try and make tomorrow. But the difficulty is that with food, it's so unpredictable when I know I have the energy to cook. So if I like pre-soak something, it kind of adds pressure to cook it at that time. And right now things are so difficult for me that I just can't plan ahead in that way. I can have certain ingredients in my fridge, but it's almost, I need the flexibility to think, okay, I don't have to cook it today, I can cook it another time. But once I've soaked the lentils, you've almost started the cooking process, but I can only deal with a small window of time. That's another issue, I guess, another whole thing. So maybe I'll take the pressure off today and not do that. I know for lunch, whenever that will be, don't know if I should eat before I go now, but I don't think I can, because that would just really stop all momentum if I do that. But usually I just have like a salad sandwich for lunch. That's kind of, so lunch is almost always, if I'm alone and here I've got the ingredients, that's taken care of. I have that quite often. So yeah, I'm kind of in this thought loop again of, okay, which type of pizza should I get? Yeah, it's a funny thing. Maybe in some ways it's not bizarre or ludicrous, like someone, a medical person perhaps, or someone who understands, I don't know if this is OCD or something else, a mixture of lots of other stuff. When the mind is like this, it can't decide, or it's in paralysis. Yeah, maybe the best thing to do is just get going. Just to get going and think, okay, maybe being in that uncomfortable environment, a quick decision may just happen. I think, okay, I can't decide, let's just, this is the nearest thing to me, let's just get that. So maybe it's just good to get going there, because I feel like if I try and resolve this decision, it's not going to happen here. So although it may be stressful to do there, but maybe out of desperation to get home or to get out of that environment, some decision will be made, even if it's to get everything. So be it. Maybe that will have to be the case. I don't know. It feels like all these things are all on top of everything else, because there's lots of other stuff that I'm struggling with just to manage my day. I've talked about before, but now this is like an added on extra stuff. So when I get home, it's like normal service resumed for the other general difficulties I'm dealing with. This is just added on stuff, I guess. Yeah, so maybe like trying to have like a healthy therapeutic narrative. I did well to get through yesterday. Yesterday was a lot of stress. There was a lot of my body and mind to take. I did well to eventually get a bit of breathing space from a social situation that I needed to exit. I did well last night to get to bed at a good time, despite not wanting to, despite still feeling the effects of that day and that evening. I did well to make that phone call today. I knew it would be difficult, and it's allowed me to know, okay, I need to contact my GP now to get a closer clinic or closer appointment to let them know with my address that I need a closer. Maybe it's good to acknowledge I'm sort of using this tool to try and help to work through a difficult moment at this time. Of course, I just want to sort of drop everything and give up, but I'm trying to work through things. And recording this maybe this, it's hard for me to feel grateful, but if I was to feel grateful, maybe to do this and upload it, it's just something I've done today. It's something I can see and think, oh, okay, that's something I've done. Productivity. So that's something as well. Yeah, I'm feeling really vulnerable, and I think walking there, maybe I can just walk really slowly, I have my headphones, listen to some ASMR maybe on the way, which might help at this time, and just walk slowly. And then I had a moment, I don't know if I shared it on here, but I was in a a busy supermarket, a bigger one, and I think it was towards a late afternoon. I was just feeling really vulnerable and drained, but I managed to just, part of me to manage to just walk really slowly in a not a caring attitude. Almost like I was, it sounds funny to say, almost like I was high or I was under influence of something where, you just suddenly, the anxiety kind of shifts away because you just don't have the energy to be anxious almost, because so it's kind of half in this half daze. I was walking through the supermarket, some people were kind of rushing in my way, and I stopped standing, wait for them to go around me, and then carried on. So it was just very, maybe if I can just have that sort of sense of slowing down, even as I stop recording this, getting my grocery bag together, and just reminding myself, because it's easy to forget everything. It's easy to forget tools or certain little things, and like slowing down is a good one for me to embrace, especially in times like this. Like just to slow down, I think is good. And just to quickly nip back to other topics, but just in social interactions, like it's reminding myself I don't have to have an answer for everything, or I don't have to speak. If I was in the middle of that, and I think I did some of that yesterday, where I think sometimes I was asked a question or something about something, and it was just difficult to have the words. Sometimes I did say I don't have the words to explain that. Okay, so slowing down, breathing would be good. Breathing is obviously essential, but deep breathing would be good. Slow breaths and slow movements. Slowly kind of glide my way through the shopping aisles and getting the items, and sometimes when I'm feeling unwell like this, it makes it easier to slow down because you don't have a choice really. And even if it looks odd, because I feel like that's another theme. Sometimes when I'm feeling really unwell, I'm walking outside, I can imagine I look pretty odd sometimes, just kind of hobbling along or walking slowly, and just there's a sense that there's this flashing sign above my head saying, this guy's unwell. This guy's, you almost, I wonder if people can sense that. I'm sure they can, because I'm not in that normal walking flow and getting things, and when someone steps outside of that social norm of how to act, and it's almost like a flashing light. People can recognize, oh yeah, something's up with this guy, and so I'm aware of that as well. Sometimes again, you're can feel too exhausted or drained to care about that. I just, if I look strange, kind of, standing in the middle of an aisle, or not middle, but on the side of an aisle, just trying to get myself together or do so, figure out a decision whether to get this or that. But okay, let's just get going. Slow down is what I need to do to be helpful, to breathe, and have something in my headphones that will help, even when I'm in the supermarket. Maybe keep the headphones on, and I've got like a transparency mode, so that helps to make sure I can hear people around me a little bit as well, so I can make sure not bumping into people or someone's trying to get by. Sometimes in the past I've forgotten to do that. I've just kept it on noise cancellation, and I've had someone kind of barge past me because I'm sure they probably said, hey, I need to get by, and I've not heard them. So headphones are going to help. Okay, so let's stop recording and just stand up and get going. I'll see about recording later if necessary, because I know if that's needed for later today. But maybe just a few deep breaths before I go. I feel like it's nice sometimes to slow down even now, just to transition between activities, to not suddenly have to bolt from doing this to suddenly doing that, and just to acknowledge the gap between, okay, I'm ending this activity and I'm beginning another one. A little bit of tightness in my chest, which is okay. Okay, yeah, let's get going.